Thank you so much for everybody's coming, and especially I would like to say thank you so much for coming to our community center. And most of the time today is very special days, is a couple weeks. We have a lot of elections coming, so we would like to be getting ready for that. And if I change it to this to Somali, waxaan dhihi lahaa dhammaan Soomaalideenna aad baad mahadsantihiin oo ka soo qayb gasheen. Midda kalena 20 maalmood soo socota waxaan ku jirnaa waqtigii doorashada. Marka waxaan jeclaan lahayn inaad doorashada isku diyaarisiin, warqadaha la soo diri doono aad ka raadisiin baqshadihiin ama emailkiina aan ku soo dhaweysin hadduu Ilaahay yiraahdo.
Sahro aad iyo aad baad u mahadsan tahay. Marka mar labaad waxaan soo dhaweynaynaa Maxamed Xaaji Beeso, chairmanka SABAC Somali American Public Affairs Council. Asagoo nagala soo qayb galay maanta fursadan aad iyo aad muhiim u ah.
Thank you, Abdi. Thank you, SABAC team, for organizing this. This is very wonderful that as a community we get involved politically, we get have understanding. So I wanted to say thank you, Abdi, for taking this initiative to create this event. Is very important for us as a community. waxaan rabaa inaan dhaho inaan mahad u celiyo SABAC iyo groupka organize gareeyay eventigan waa event muhiim ah loo baahan yahay in maaragtay aan fahansannahay siyaasadda muhiimadda tahay qaybta aan ka ciyaarno iyo sida anaga ee noo anfacayso waana muhiim in uu maaragtay qof inoogu jiro oo roolka ishu inoogu hayo SABACna booskaas ay hadda buuxisay aadaan u faraxsannahay inaan step every day step fiican aan step ka sii fiican aan sii qaadno waxaan ku faraxsannahay gabadha walaasheena Shamran inay naga soo qayb qaadato gabadh aad u wanaagsan waayo waana ku faraxsanahay inay u marka aadaan ugu soo dhaweynayaa organizationkeena iyo communityga.
Thank you, Mohammed Haji Beso, for your time. But why don't we not hear from Kshama straight, and she can tell us why she wants us to elect her, and why she thinks that the immigrant community, especially the East African people who are here today, are so important in her election. So let us hear from her, Kshama. Welcome, Kshama.
Thank you, Abdi. And I first wanted to thank everybody for inviting us here, welcoming us here. We're deeply honored to be here. And I wanted to also start by first bringing the greetings from our campaign and from our organization, Socialist Alternative, to our brothers and sisters in the Somali community and the Oromo community. It was very nice to hear from representatives of the Oromo community as well. And just to give you an introduction, we're running this campaign for Seattle City Council, as Abdi said, for position 2. And the organization behind this campaign is Socialist Alternative. We are a nationwide organization of social and economic justice activists. And we have over 25 years of history of working with different communities in different cities in the country on different social and economic justice issues. And we have branches not only in Seattle, but also in Bellingham, Olympia, and in other cities like Minneapolis, Boston, New York City. And in fact, we're running another candidate for city council in Minneapolis as well, who also has a really good chance of winning. And so why this campaign? Why are we running when so many other candidates are running? Every election year is flooded with lots of candidates who want to make their political careers. And I wanted to tell you that our campaign is very different from virtually any other candidate or campaign that you will come across. This is a grassroots campaign. We are not taking any money from big corporations. Our campaign platform is 100% dedicated towards making the lives of ordinary working people in Seattle better. And if you look at the question of low wages, for example, which is central to our campaign, who are the low-wage workers? There's fast food workers, there are workers at SeaTac, there are women who provide childcare, people who provide parking attendant services, security guards, many, many, many jobs where people are working really hard and are nameless and faceless and invisible, and nobody really talks about them. And many of those jobs are filled by people from our immigrant communities. And I know firsthand what it feels like to be an immigrant. As Abdi, I think, mentioned, I am originally from India. I grew up in Mumbai, and I've been in the United States for several years, but I know how it feels when you are new here, and it is so hard to get assimilated. And a lot of how well immigrant communities can do in any city they're in is a question of how much representation, political representation, they can have in their government. And if you look at Seattle, I think somebody who went before me mentioned that Seattle has become diverse. Seattle's diversity is increasing in terms of, if you look at the population in Seattle, there's more and more immigrants, people of color moving into Seattle. But the city government still remains very, very, very non-immigrant. There is not a single immigrant voice on the city government today, and hasn't been there. I don't think there has ever been any immigrant voice in the city government, and certainly not for a very long time. And the city government is busy talking about what is good for real estate investors, what is good for big developers, and we are among the people who are forgotten. Who is talking about, the fact that the vast majority of the immigrant community struggles with low wages? Who is talking about the fact that the immigrant community struggles with having to pay skyrocketing rent? What about language services? What about English translation services? What about services to enable minority communities to set up their own small businesses? Setting up a small business and maintaining a small business is hard enough in Seattle, but it's harder when you're from a member of the minority community, you don't speak the language of the city, and you don't know how to navigate the political system, the economic system, and you need help. And throughout this campaign, we've been talking to a lot of people who represent immigrant communities, and I'm learning more and more as I go about how little there is a conversation about what our communities need. And I think it's high time that we made that change on the Seattle City Council. Among the low-wage workers, I think we have to make a specific mention about women. Women are some of the lowest paid workers, and women do some of the hardest jobs in the city, and we have very little voice. We have to have our own political representation to talk about how women need better standards of living, because women are the ones caring for their families. Women are the ones raising children, taking care of the elderly. We are bearing the burden of raising the new generation and taking care of our communities, and we need support from the government. And our campaign is bringing that message to Seattle that we've had enough of many of these city council members who are doing a lot for big real estate developers. They're making sure that they're making big profits, but there's very little for the rest of us, and it is time for that change. In our campaign, we are not only raising the question of $15 an hour. We've been fighting for $15 an hour since last year, and I don't know how many of you know, but we also ran a campaign against House Speaker Frank Chop last year, and we got 29% of the vote. We've built on that success. We got 35% of the vote in the primary in a three-way race. And I quickly wanted to acknowledge Council Member Nick Licata, who just walked in, who's done great work for the community. And I actually, I just want to digress here. And often people ask me, you're a socialist, you have these big ideas, how will you work on the city council with other people? And I think Councilmember Nick Licata is a great example of how people are working on the city council already, but there's not enough of us. We need more voices for working people. We need more voices for immigrants, for people of color, for low-income people, for people who live in the deep south and the deep north who are completely forgotten. And the majority of the city council works for big business and the super wealthy. We're saying it's time to have at least one more voice, a very strong progressive voice, an immigrant and person of color voice that can bring in a first-hand experience of what it feels like to be an immigrant and how we need to have a sense of urgency, a passion to represent these communities. So in addition to the $15 an hour demand, we're also talking about taxing the super rich in order to make sure that there is sufficient funding for mass transit and public education. And we also need to fight for affordable housing. And one of the measures we are calling for is rent control, but that is only one measure. We're also talking about a whole comprehensive program of affordable housing that can be done. It is perfectly possible. What we need is somebody to fight for it. And I'm also often asked, and many of you have asked me too, that look, we've had politicians come every election year, they come for the immigrant vote. You know, they tell us nice things, they tell us we're going to fight for you, and then we don't hear from them for the next 4 years until it's time to get themselves re-elected, and then they come back for the vote. And by that time, they've forgotten where the Somali Community Center exists, you know, and they have to ask you for the address again. And you know, so they ask me, and they ask our campaign, why should we trust you? What is so different about your campaign? And I wanted to tell you what I've told many of your brothers and sisters already, that we are activists. We have no interest in making our own political career. As Abdi mentioned, I'm a teacher, I'm an economist. That is what I do for a living. And it's not a very big living. I'm a part-time teacher, and you know, with all the attacks on public education, there is no way I am going to get a full-time job until you and I struggle together for full funding for public education. And we need somebody to talk about the needs of immigrants, children of immigrants, the high dropout rates, why are they happening, what are the special services that we need for students. We need to talk about all these things. And one of the reasons we are different is that this campaign did not start out with this idea. You know, I didn't wake up one morning and think, I want to have a political career and I'm going to get people to help me. This is a collective effort because everybody who's working on this campaign believes passionately in social and economic justice, believes in creating representation for people of color and low-income people, and that is why we're running this campaign. I have pledged that as a city council member, I will take only the average worker's salary and donate the rest to social movements, to grassroots movements. And we're already seeing movements come up around us. Many of you are personally involved in fighting for the CTAC Prop 1 initiative. And what we all want on November 5th is we have the CTAC $15 an hour measure passed and a socialist elected to city council, an immigrant woman of color elected to city council. If those two things happen, the eyes of the nation and even the world will be on Seattle, because Seattle would have said something really different. Seattle would have said, you know, it's time for a change. CTAC is saying it's time for a change and we have to be part of that change. And the reason we are different is because for that change to happen, it is not enough to elect people on the government. It is the first step. You know, electing me would be a first step forward. However, to get any of these things we are talking about, these are all ideas, to make these ideas into reality, to turn them into reality, we will need to work together. So when people ask me, will you forget about me or will you remember me? I tell them, I hope you will remember me after you elect me, because I'm going to need your help to do any of these things. And so we need to be working together. And here is our promise. Whether we win or we lose, we are tremendously excited to be building these connections with your community, with our communities. We want to work together in the long run for many of these things. So whether we win or lose, we are going to be doing it. But my appeal to you today is that we are a winnable campaign. This can be done. We can win. We have every opportunity of winning. We have come this far. We have been a trailblazing campaign. But in order to go from being a very successful campaign to being a campaign that won a council seat, we need your help. We need your active support. We need you to go out into your communities and talk to your families, to your people. Say, this is in your interest. Electing this woman is going to be good for you, and so you have to do this because she needs your help, because our campaign needs your help. And this can be done, but not without your help. And I'm deeply honored to have this opportunity to make this appeal to you, and I hope that we can make this a lasting relationship. Thank you.